In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. I am very grateful to God for giving the blessing of being with you, and I hope our session today would help us better understand the significance of life and see how both in our theological, philosophical work as well as our general work, we can show more appreciation to any form of life, especially in a time that we see there are many sad and tragic events that threaten lives of many people in different parts of the world. So our discussion today is not just academic, but it has also practical implications. When I was towards the end of my PhD, which is about ethical relativism, I more and more became interested into issues about life and death. And therefore I decided to do my postdoc on moral issues about life and death. And then when I went back to Qom, in addition to teaching theoretical ethics, I started teaching bioethics and environmental ethics and encouraged some of our postgraduate students to do works in this area. So I share with you a little bit about some of the basics of Islamic understanding of life, and I have some papers, and in particular, if you are interested, you can refer to this paper, which is online, called Islamic Bioethics, a General Scheme, which is published by Journal of Medical Ethics and History of Medicine by Tehran Medical University. In all Abrahamic religions, we know that life is very valuable, and actually life is also a quality that we attribute to God Himself. And in the Quran, in 5 places, we find that God is described as Al-Hayy, the living. It's very important for us to know and remember God as someone who has life, which means has understanding, has activity, has care, has love, because without life you cannot have these things. Sometimes in the Quran we find that the quality of life comes right after unity of God. Allahu la ilaha illahu al-hayy. So it's such an important quality that comes after unity of God. And sometimes even comes before unity. Huwa al-hayy la ilaha illahu. So it's such important quality about God. But then God is also the giver of life. Normally, the way we classify beings is we say we have living beings and non-living beings. And this is a conventional way of classifying different types of beings. We have another way of looking at beings, which we find in the Quran and also in Islamic mysticism, and that is actually everything has life. There is no being without life, without understanding, and this is an interesting discussion that we find in some literature. But let's go to the conventional way of saying that we have living beings, including plants, animals, human beings, and we have non-living beings in this physical world. all types of life are considered to be sacred. Not only human life, even animal life, even life of the plants, all are sacred. And in my paper, I have tried to give references to the significance of life. And I have another paper about Islamic environmental ethics, where I mention some of the teaching of Islam about environment, like animals, like birds, like plants, and even soil and water. So, all types of life are sacred, and we should respect, and we should be treating them in a very responsible way. I cannot show disregard even to a small insect or to a bird or an animal. When you read Islamic hadith, you find that even animals' life is sacred. And it's very interesting, some of you might be interested in Islamic jurisprudence. And normally people, have a kind of, unfortunately, maybe negative understanding about Islamic jurisprudence or Sharia, as partly because of misrepresentation. But actually we find that in proper understanding of Islamic jurisprudence, not only human life is sacred, even lives of animals is sacred. And we have Shia jurists like Sahib Jawahir, a great contemporary Shia jurist, who says that animals have rights for shelter, for food, for medicine. And even he issues verdict that if your neighbor has an animal and is not able to feed animal, you are responsible to help your neighbor in feeding his animal. So even animal life is sacred. And in this paper I have quoted from another contemporary scholar, Allama Muhammad Taqi Jafari, a very well-known philosopher and commentator on Mathnavi by Rumi. And he says, careful examination of Islamic sources shows that no one can kill animals for leisure, for, just enjoying, hunting. And the only way to be able to take away the life of animal is when you need to use them as food at the service of another form of life, or to protect yourself if there is an animal which is going to endanger your life. Sometimes you need to defend yourself. Otherwise, we don't have such a thing as going and hunting just for the sake of pleasure. So, this is about animal life, plant life, but I want to focus on human life. When it comes to human life, we find that the Quran treats it with a special care, to the extent that different stages of human life are detailed out. From the time of fertilization, of zygote, different stages of development of embryo, the time of birth, and then early years of childhood, up to the end of the death, and even after we die, when our body shows no vital activities. All stages are very carefully addressed, and if you consider all of them, you find maximum respect is to be given to human life as one of the greatest manifestation of God's acts of creatorship. In one verse, when God talks about different stages of development of embryo and then the stage of creating the soul, which according to most of Muslim jurists is after 120 days of pregnancy. So God said, ثُمَّ أَنْشَأْنَاهُ خَلْقًا آخَرَ. We gave it another creation, which is interpreted as creation of the soul. And then God says, فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. May God be blessed, the best of creators. This is the only place that we find God as the best of creators, right after talking about creation of human beings. So it means that the creation of human being is the best of creation. And therefore, God is the best of creators. So, we should have maximum respect when it comes to human life. To the extent that the Quran in chapter 5, verse 32 says, killing one person is like killing all humanity. So it's not a matter of number, it's a matter of principle. One cannot say, I killed only one person or two people. Look at people who are, like Hitler and Saddam, they have killed thousands of people. No. Even one person has the same honor and dignity that all humanity has to receive. And on the other hand, if you save one person, it's so important that as if you have saved all humanity. So if you have an opportunity to save one person's life, don't underestimate that. Think that you are saving all humanity. So, the Quranic exegetes have lots of discussion here about this issue, how saving one life is like saving humanity, how killing one person is like killing humanity. It's in my paper. Another issue which we find is that the value of human life is not only when body and the soul are connected with each other. I wish I had time, maybe if you have questions, we can elaborate on this. Human life is so important that even after death, you have to have respect for the body of a dead person. To the extent that our hadiths, which are the basis of our jurisprudence, say, إِنَّ اللَّهَ حَرَّمَ مِنْهُ مَيِّتًا مَا حَرَّمَ مِنْهُ حَيًّا. Whatever was prohibited to be done to a living person is prohibited to be done to a dead body. No one can cause injury even to a dead body. No one can insult even a dead body. So human life is so important that its honor and dignity is extended to human body before the installment and after the departure of the spirit from body. And then in my paper I have tried to explain how this understanding of life, how this understanding of human dignity shapes our understanding of few things, like treatment of the sick. The ill people and the people around all have responsibility for helping people with treatment. I cannot refuse treatment if I am ill, and other people cannot say it has nothing to do with us. There is a discussion here about abortion, discussion about organ donation, about euthanasia, about brain death, and other issues. But if I want to just summarize everything, I think a great sign of being a religious person, a moral person, is how much you value any kind of life. If we underestimate any form of life which is a manifestation of God, it means that we have failed in our theological and moral development. Thank you very much.